Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Lean Publishing Tip of the Day, where I'm going to be talking about writing a book to advance your career and how that's maybe different from other kinds of books that you're going to write for different reasons. Um, as always, there is a blog post to accompany this Lean Publishing Tip of the Day. Let me just call it up here. If you're watching this as a recording, which is going to be most people who are watching this, please just skip ahead to the 2 minute mark as always, where we just give people a few minutes or a couple of minutes to join up if they're live and catch us in the moment. And we just do a little bit of housekeeping. You can find the blog post on our Leanpub on our blog at leanpub.com/blog, and you can of course find the recordings for all these videos on our YouTube channel at Leanpub. Please like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. On our YouTube channel, you'll find all kinds of other videos, including some explainer videos, book launch videos, new release videos, and podcast interviews as well with authors. We've got over, we're approaching 350, I think. I'd love to have done 700. And I love talking to authors. And so if you're a Leanpub author and you've got a lot to say and you'd love to be on a podcast episode, please just find a way to reach out to us. We're pretty easy to find. You can just email the team at hello@leanpub.com if you want to. And whenever you publish a book now on Leanpub, you also get a kind of launch video application button where you can apply and, I'll see it. We obviously don't have the resources to do launch videos for everyone who publishes a book on Leanpub or a new version of a book on Leanpub. But please hit the button and see what happens. It's always great to hear about new books, even if they're not necessarily gonna get a slot. But check it out. And if you're watching this for the first time, the format that these take is that they're basically like about 15 minutes long, and we try to do one every weekday. We haven't been quite hitting that schedule recently, but we'll try and get back to that. So here we are approaching the 2 minute mark. Okay. Welcome everyone to the 2 minute mark of the Lean Publishing Tip of the Day recording for this video, where I'm going to be talking about writing a book to advance your career. So it's interesting, that topic might seem straightforward when you put it that way, but what does it actually mean to write a book to advance your career? Um, One of the things it can mean is who are you going to try to reach with it? How is your book marketing process going to work when you're writing a book to advance your career? You can think about it very kind of straightforwardly as a matter of focusing your efforts on the people that you want to reach to advance your career. So, for example, if you want to stay in your company, how do you get people who are in positions of influence within your company to find out about your book? That will be a major focus. That'll help you choose the title. It'll help you choose the topic, things like that. If it's not necessarily your company, but your industry, where you want to advance your career, then you think very carefully about who the specific. You can think the interesting thing about writing a book to advance your career is you could think specifically about who the people are that you wanna reach, and think about how to reach them. One this actually wasn't a person trying to advance their career; they were trying to advance something else, but they just got a list of 500 CEOs that they wanted to in companies in their area. They wrote a book, and they got it into print through probably Amazon KDP or something like that, and sent out 500 copies. If kind of three get through to people, or five or whatever get through to people who actually read your book, that can be an incredibly influential book. Um, so there's that. There's thinking about who you specifically want to reach, how you're going to reach out to them, things like that. Um, but a kind of deeper level of writing a book to advance your career that I find kind of more or equally kind of interesting is the transformative effect that writing a book is going to have on you, and thinking about that. You're going to maybe spending hundreds or thousands of hours writing a book. If you take that approach, and you're going to change, you're making a choice about what path to go down in your life, about what you're going to think about, what you're going to spend your time researching, what you're going to spend your time learning about, and hopefully innovating on. And of course, you can't know how you're going to be able to contribute until you get to the point where you've got something to contribute, and maybe you're already there. And it's a matter of kind of coming up with being persuasive, but you might still be on the journey to discovering what it is you're going to have to contribute. And the way this will advance your career is you'll just know more than other people will in your area. You'll know more about maybe this very specific thing that you've decided to write about. And in that case, it's very interesting. What does it mean to write the book? Um, does it matter if it takes 6 months? Does it matter if it takes 6 years? Um, I wrote a doctoral thesis myself. That took 3.5 years to write that. I would be surprised if more than 5 people have read it, but it certainly transformed my life because I thought about a lot of things for that time. I read a great deal, and that all what I learned and the discipline to write that and finish it uh, gave me habits and skills and knowledge that I can apply to everything, every aspect of my life. So in that sense, writing a book to advance your career, it's not about like, the book even maybe even getting read by more than a handful of people. It's about you writing it. That's what matters. That's something to keep in mind when you're choosing what to do. And also if you're feeling, stressed out about, my book hasn't, if you're probably publishing your book in progress, which obviously we recommend you do, being Leanpub, you might be like, oh, I've only reached a few readers so far, et cetera. What really matters is, and if you're writing a book to advance your career, is how it's changing you. Of course, you're going to want to reach people with it. You're going to want to get feedback and stuff like that. But one of the most important things is how you change and what you learn. And when you keep that in mind, when you think about, well, what progress did I make on my book today? You may not have written a word, but you may have gone for a long walk and thought deeply. You may have taken a lot of notes that you can call upon, basically for the rest of your life. I'm talking about voice notes right now. I know quite a few Leanpub authors like to dictate when they walk, which just leads, pardon the brief digression, but it's very funny thing nowadays when you walk along and you see people talking into their AirPods. I do wonder how many people are actually having a conversation with another person, and how many people are either taking voice notes or actually talking with AI, and maybe even like programming something as they're walking along. It's a different time, but they could be writing their book as well. They could be dictating their book as they walk, and that's a fascinating thing. Also, an ancient thing as well. It wasn't with voice recording and AI, but it might have been with sort of someone following along, writing down the master's thoughts as they spoke them. Uh, but in any case, yeah. So getting back to the topic of the tip of the day, I'm reminded of an old kind of this kind of deep Leanpub lore. But Leanpub used to be bootstrapped. We had a consulting business, and what that means, if you're not familiar with the terminology, is that you use the funding from you use the money from what your consulting work or whatever it is you're doing as your kind of main business line to fund your passion project and what you really care about. And our most lucrative and interesting client, we got when one of their advisors pirated got a pirated copy of my co-founder Peter's book, and our this guy Scott Patton, co-founder of Leanpub, way back in the day, his book as well. I think it was like by accident. This person sort of, well, not by accident because their work was related to each other, but this advisor had pirated these two books by these two different people who turned out to be co-founders of a company, from his perspective, a consulting company. And so he hired us based on these pirated copies of books that he'd read. And when we made, we made hopefully, a lot of progress for them in the work that we did for them. And we made a fair amount of money as well. And this is from two pirated books. Um, so when you're thinking about advancing your career by writing a book, having something out there where you've truly thought it through, you truly understand it, you truly made a contribution to your area, means that you are of special value. You personally are of special value to people who have needs for those things that those ideas that you've developed, those concepts that you've built out, maybe even proven through your own experience building a company or building a product or managing a team or leading a team to some kind of goal, something like that. So when you're writing a book to advance your career, obviously, one way of doing that is to become a famous best-selling author and things like that. Now you're going to get invited to give all kinds of talks and, maybe, work at companies, things like that. But writing a book to advance your career can have all other sort of, aspects to it as well, and how you understand what that means. And definitely keeping in mind how you're changing, not just how you're going to be changing other people's lives with your book, but how you're going to change when you write this book is something that I recommend to keep in mind when you're thinking about writing a book to advance your career. It's not in that sense. It's probably like not a race. It's not something you're trying to do right now. But the good thing about Leanpub is that you can actually get your book out when you've finished just one chapter. Hit the publish button, one chapter out. You can start getting readers. And crucially, one thing that it's probably going to be true, even more so than maybe in other circumstances, is that you're going to want to get feedback from people in your industry or in your category of activity. Maybe specialists. There might only be 10 people in the world who literally can kind of read and understand your book. Find them when you've written one chapter, maybe give them a free coupon and things like that, and ask them to join you on the journey through writing your book. They'll get all the updates for free. You can send them a little email notification using Leanpub's release notes feature when you publish a new version of your new chapter of your book, and get their feedback. That's going to be a really important way of knowing that what you're saying is different from what other people have said before, is new, is a contribution, and is turning heads. And so, finding those 10 expert readers at the beginning, again, you're probably, what you're doing when you're writing a book to advance your career, at least in the initial stages, is not trying to make a lot of money directly from it. In fact, I probably should have said this at the beginning, like making money directly from the book is actually not going to be your primary concern when you're writing a book to advance your career. Hopefully you'll make money indirectly from it over time. But what you actually want to do is really think about it, really understand it, really work on the problem. So that's today's Lean Publishing tip of the day, where I talked about writing a book to advance your career. If you jumped into the video late, you can find all these videos on our YouTube channel at Leanpub. Please like and subscribe and all of that. If you've got a topic that you'd like me to, about anything having to do with writing and publishing, and particularly self-publishing and lean publishing, that you'd like me to talk about, please reach out. I'm pretty easy to find. That includes, as I always like to say, asking me to talk again about something that we've talked about before, but there's some aspect of it that you'd like us to cover that we didn't cover. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching this video. Hope to see you next time.